I want you to do something with me. Forget this video for a moment. Think about the last 7 days. Not last year. Not last month. Just the last 7 days. How many times did you spend money? Buying breakfast, paying rent, ordering food, fueling your car, shopping online, paying your phone bill, streaming a movie. Now don't count how much you spent. Count something else. How many of those payments came back to you? Probably none. Yet somewhere, somebody's phone may have vibrated. Because of every payment you made. You bought the coffee. Their phone vibrated. You paid your rent. Their phone vibrated. You filled your tank. Their phone vibrated. You renewed your subscription. Their phone vibrated. Now let me ask you something. How many phones vibrated because of you this week? And how many vibrated for you? Every single day, money is moving. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions of times. But here's the strange part. Money rarely moves in circles. It usually moves in one direction. The question is, which direction has it been moving in your life? Sarah couldn't let it go. Every payment she made seemed to end the same way. Somebody else's phone vibrated, never hers. At first, she ignored it. But the question kept following her. Why did it feel like she was helping build everyone else's future? Except her own? She wasn't lazy. She had done everything she was told to do. Study hard. Get good grades. Find a stable job. Work hard. Get promoted. Repeat. And to be fair, it worked. Her income had grown. Her responsibilities had grown. Even her lifestyle had grown. So why did wealth still feel just out of reach? Then one evening, she came across 3 simple sentences. School teaches you how to get hired. Work teaches you how to get promoted. But almost nobody teaches you how to stop depending on both. Sarah read them again. She wasn't questioning the lines. She was questioning life she had built around them. For years, she had measured success by promotions, by salary increases, by becoming more valuable to someone else's vision. But she had never stopped to ask herself one question. What am I building that will still belong to me years from now? That question stayed with Sarah. She couldn't ignore it anymore. So she stopped looking for better opportunities and started looking for better explanations. She became curious, not about money, about patterns. She began studying people whose wealth seemed to outlive their work, not to copy their lives, to understand what they understood. She looked at Warren Buffett, J.K. Rowling, Michael Jordan, the founders of Apple. Different generations, different industries, different personalities, different talents. At first, they didn't seem to have anything in common. One invested, one wrote books, one played basketball, others built technology. Completely different paths. Yet the more Sarah looked, the more one pattern refused to disappear. None of them became wealthy because they worked one extraordinary day. They became wealthy because their work ended, but the value they created didn't. So they stopped getting paid only for their work and started getting paid for what their work left behind. J.K. Rowling finished writing the books. Millions kept buying them. Michael Jordan retired from basketball. People still bought his shoes. Warren Buffett made investments decades ago. Many of them continued producing value. Apple kept creating products that millions of people continued choosing. Then it hit Sarah. The work created the value. Ownership allowed them to keep benefiting from that value. She sat there in silence, thinking about the first 2 columns of wealth. The first had taught her how to create value. The second had taught her how to protect value. But neither answered the question she was now asking. Who gets to keep a claim on the value after it's created? That was the missing piece. Because creating value isn't enough. Protecting value isn't enough. At some point, you have to keep a claim on the value you create. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. One question kept echoing in her mind. If work creates value, why should the rewards end the moment the work ends? Then she remembered an old story. 2 men lived beside the same river. Every morning, Both carried buckets of water back to their homes. Every morning, they made the same exhausting journey. Until one day, one of them did something strange. He put his bucket down, picked up a shovel, and started digging. The other man laughed. "You're wasting time. You could be carrying more water." But he kept digging. Days passed. Weeks passed. Months passed. Then one morning, water reached his house. Before he did, Sarah finally understood. The man with bucket wasn't lazy. He worked hard. The man building the pipeline wasn't lazy either. He worked just as hard. The difference was, one man's work ended every evening. The other man's work continued long after he stopped digging. Then it hit her. Most people spend their lives becoming better bucket carriers. Very few stop long enough to build a pipeline. That's when Sarah realized, wealth isn't built the day you make money. It's built the day your work no longer disappears when the day is over. Because creating value isn't enough. Protecting value isn't enough. At some point, you have to keep a claim on the value you create. Only then can today's effort continue rewarding tomorrow's version of you. That's the third column of wealth. Own. A few weeks later, Sarah did something that surprised even her. She bought her first share in a company. It wasn't expensive. In fact, she had spent more on dinner the weekend before. At first, it felt almost meaningless. Nothing in her life changed. She still woke up for work, still answered emails, still received the same salary. Then one afternoon, her phone buzzed. She looked down. A tiny dividend had been paid into her account. It wasn't enough to buy lunch. It wasn't enough to celebrate. But Sarah couldn't stop staring at it. Not because of the amount, because of what it meant. For the first time in her life, money had arrived, without asking for another hour of her time. She smiled, not because she was richer, because she was thinking differently. That tiny payment whispered something she'd never considered before. Maybe ownership doesn't begin when you have millions. Maybe ownership begins the moment you stop believing you need millions to start. That single payment was small. The lesson wasn't. From that day on, Sarah stopped asking, "How much can I earn this month?" She started asking, "What can I own this month?" So let me ask you this. If you stopped working today, what part of your life would keep creating value tomorrow? Think about that. Because the answer to that single question quietly predicts more of your financial future than most people realize. If you're following this series, don't miss the remaining columns, because each one reveals another piece of the puzzle most people spend their entire lives trying to solve, without ever realizing they're missing it. Now, before I go, what's one thing you hope to own one day that could still be creating value years from now? I'd love to read your answers. So let me know in the comments.